Hi, garden friends. Welcome back to the Garden Girls podcast. Today we have a listener request. We were asked what we do after harvest. So, you guys probably see videos on our short forms or even YouTube of us harvesting from the garden. But I guess sometimes we're not the best at showing what we do afterwards to like directly afterwards to either preserve or just keep things fresh. So, we're going to talk about that today. Right now, I am harvesting pretty much twice a week. The garden is definitely gardening for me. If you guys saw my most recent harvest video, I harvested about 3 pounds of green beans and about like 20 something cucumbers, and I'm getting probably at least 5 cucumbers a day.
That
Like,
is
you guys see the harvest?
insane.
What? Like you guys see the harvest videos, but there's harvest in between those that I don't record because like I can't, like record every single day. I mean, I guess I could, but there's like little micro harvests that are happening in between there. So my entire refrigerator right now is full of green beans and cucumbers that I need to preserve in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I feel like this is an interesting one because the reason I don't document why everything after the harvest is because I'm usually dead to the world. Like by the time I've done the harvest video, it's like we're not also documenting everything else because everything else is messy. Like my kitchen looks like it imploded every single time I do one of these
Same.
big harvest videos and I honestly, if I weren't doing it for videos, I probably would just harvest individual things at a time because they all need to be dealt with slightly differently. But even before I get into the kitchen, I'm kind of thinking about how I'm going to be processing those things because I'll be filming a video for 30, 40 minutes. I don't want to have the things that can wilt really fast, like wilting before I even get to that end of that video. So you may notice in a lot of my videos that I pick the leafy greens and things like that towards the end of the video, and that is on purpose because I want to make sure those things don't wilt. And I'll also often have things in the background, even though I'm throwing everything in the harvest basket in the video, I'll often have a glass of water that I'm throwing things that have stems into and actually storing them that way to keep them fresh as I'm going along. So then I bring everything inside, and I do have a ridiculously long counter, which I'm very, very thankful for because it gets covered in everything very, very quickly. And I tend to be motivated to deal with things right away by the fact that usually there's ants and other little creepy crawlies emerging from the plants and being what are we doing here? Don't need these in my kitchen necessarily. So there's a lot of that and just kind of getting things in the fridge, which I will say I have not done a great job of organization. Even though I have a lot of good methods for keeping things fresh, my fridge just looks like a disaster at all times. I don't know about you because I literally I'll just
It
have
does.
bags of random greens everywhere. It's just
Yeah. And sometimes if I don't have the energy to deal with it right then, when I bring this stuff in, I am known for just like throwing them in a bag or a container, putting them in the fridge, and I'll deal with it later. Because it's hard to, especially in the summer when it's so hot, you're spending like an hour at least. I would say every harvest that I do or harvest video that I make, I'm out there for an hour or more
Mhm.
at least harvesting. And I come in and I'm just like dripping sweat and I'm so sweaty. It's like I don't really want to deal with it then. So I'll just like throw it in a bag,
Right.
like unwashed everything, just like put it in the fridge and then I'll deal with it later.
I know. It's so much to keep track of. There's certain things with strawberries, I will not wash them before I put them away. And we are picking strawberries right now. I'm so excited because they tend to get really soft on the outside, especially if it's rained recently, which happens a lot around the time of year that we are harvesting strawberries. They get really, really soft. So I usually put them in a airtight container with some kind of cloth to absorb even more moisture at the bottom of it. I mean, we go through our strawberries fairly fast, and I do have kind of a cycle and a system for strawberries specifically because it's one of those crops that I get all at once and I get so many, and I'm trying to preserve it by freezing a lot of it too. So what I'll generally do is fill like 1 to 2 colanders. I couldn't even tell you how many pounds that is, but it's heavy, like easily 8 pounds. It's a big colander. And I'll kind of pick through those and pick the best ones, store those in the fridge, and I'll store about like 2 days worth at a time that I'll know we'll eat fresh. And then anything left over that's been like picked that day, I will take my strawberry dehuller. Have you seen one of these things? These hullers?
Mhm.
Oh my God.
I want
Listen,
one. I don't have one, but I
I'm
want one.
very anti like single-use kitchen gadgets, but this one, it's tiny and it's cheap and it really is so much better than using a knife.
Is it single use though?
Well, I mean, it's only got one job.
Oh, oh,
You know what I
okay.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So, what is it, like a one-hit wonder kind of deal?
Mm. Yeah.
But it's so helpful. And so I will just then rinse all the strawberries that I am going to freeze, hull them, and put them in the bags and label them for the freezer. So we generally get like 4 full gallon bags of strawberries for the freezer, which I will use periodically throughout the rest of the year for various projects. If I'm not just doing one big batch of jam to can, which canning is not my, like, I know how to do it. I've done it. I find it very strenuous, so I tend to avoid it. And I really want to try to make, actually, have you tried to make the chia jam? Where you just like
No.
heat up berries and you add like chia seeds to it? And the chia seeds, it's just like chia seed pudding, so it makes it really thick without having to use pectin
Oh,
or a ton of sugar or anything. You can't preserve it that way, obviously, but
yeah.
you can make like a single batch at a time.
Like
So
a quick fridge kind of jam.
yeah, it's like a
I've
fridge
never
pickle
tried.
equivalent. So I want to try that
Yeah.
out this year with the strawberries. But other things like my lettuce, which again, I tend to get like way more than I ever need of lettuce because I plant it almost decoratively in the garden early in the year just to get some color. I will pre-wash it before I put it in the fridge because I find that it stores better when it's slightly damp. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. I always add a wet paper towel
Yeah.
into like whatever container I have it in. I think I put a dry one on the bottom and a wet one on top. And like to collect all the extra moisture at the bottom, but then to keep moisture in like on top,
Yeah.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. Because it likes to stay moist so it doesn't like shrivel up or get slimy.
Yeah.
I like to wash mine too before putting it in there just because like slugs and like stuff that could be in lettuce.
See, we don't get a
Slug.
ton of slugs just because my beds are so elevated. I know I brag about this a lot. But the ants. There's always ants in my
Yeah.
lettuce. So many ants.
There's always some kind of critter,
Yeah, and I
spider.
mean, I get it. Like, it's a cozy hiding spot. I'd probably want to live in a lettuce plant too if I was a bug.
Same. It would be nice. Just
Cozy.
like a sea. It would be like being in the ocean, but for a bug.
Right? I bet it like
Yeah.
muffles sound too, so it's like a sensory deprivation experience.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. It's probably nice and cool too.
Yeah, I canning is like a whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great way to preserve. I think it's the best way to preserve if you have a lot of something. Like for instance, 3 pounds of green beans. I can't eat all of that at one time. I can't eat it before they're gonna go bad. So I either have to can it or freeze it. And I like freezing stuff, but like my freezer's only so big. I actually have a pretty small freezer because I have like one of those fridges where the whole top is the fridge and
Mm.
then the bottom is the freezer. There's not that much space. And so, and I don't have room anywhere for an extra fridge for this purpose or an extra freezer for this purpose. So my go-to is usually canning. And so I'm gonna have to pressure can them, which I've never pressure canned before
Oh, you haven't?
because no, I haven't. I have a pressure canner. I've had it sitting in my pantry for like a year, and I just haven't done it because I'm kind of scared. It's a new skill that I have to learn. It like takes time.
Yeah.
I have water bath canning down to a T.
Yeah.
Like I could do it in my sleep. And honestly, it's not. The more you do it, the less kind of like strenuous it becomes. I mean, it's still like a whole thing because you have to make sure everything's sterile, and then you have to there's so many steps and you have to make sure that you're doing everything right and you have to make sure you're following the recipe to a T for safety reasons and stuff. But with beans, they're a low acid food, so they can't be water bath canned because
Right.
that's only for high acid foods like jams and tomatoes and stuff like that. So they have to be pressure canned. And I'm gonna do it because I don't have the amount of beans that I harvested, I don't have enough room for in the freezer. And I have other things that are going in the freezer, like blueberries and my paste tomatoes, which paste tomatoes, by the way, I harvested some that were fully ripe and then some that weren't quite ripe yet. They need to ripen up. So, like, if I harvest paste tomatoes, I'll bring them in, kind of separate the ripe ones from the unripe ones. The ripe ones get washed and just tossed straight into the freezer. Like, I don't even put them in bags or anything. I just
Wait,
throw
what?
them in.
So you
I
just
just
have a
throw
loose
them in.
tomato?
Yes, loose tomato, it works. You don't even need to
I
bag
love
them. It's
that.
fine. They just go straight into the freezer. The other ones, I wait for them to ripen up and then they go into the freezer. And I wait until I have enough to then can to make pasta sauce and then can it. And it's so much easier to deal with frozen tomatoes when you're canning anyways because as they're thawing out, the skin just slips right off.
Yeah, that's so
It's
nice.
so great. You could put them in freezer bags. It's probably the best way to
No,
do
I
it.
mean, if
But I'm
if
not
it's
freezing them
short
for very
term,
long.
yeah, like,
Right.
I mean, I feel like in my case, I have a deep freeze, so it would just they would get lost at the bottom. But I feel like in a smaller freezer, like, why not? You're not leaving them there for very long. Or you could even just have like an open cardboard box if you were using a deep freezer and just kind of chuck them in there or something. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's plastic free. I love that because that is one
Right.
problem I have with like freezing stuff, which is my primary method of preserving the harvest. Is like every option seems to be plastic. Like I use the silicone
Yeah.
stasher bags in the fridge for most of my stuff and like glass Pyrex. But for freezer options, there really just isn't like I'm not going to use a $40 stasher bag in the freezer for 6 months. Like it's not going to work. 'Cause it's not financially sustainable, I should say.
They make like freezer safe glass now, but it still kind of sketches me out because glass is so susceptible to like breaking
Right.
when there's a temperature change shift, whether it's hot or super cold. And so I'm like, I would hate for a glass to break in the freezer.
Yeah.
That would be like a whole ordeal to clean it out.
I was gonna ask with the pressure canning, because I know absolutely nothing about this. Like, are you literally canning in, like, is the are the green beans canned in water? Like, because you're not brining them, you're not pickling them. So are they just literally in
Right.
water?
It's just water and sometimes salt. You can add salt if you want, but you don't have to add salt. But I mean it's just like when you get a can of green
Yeah.
beans from the store, they're in water. It's the same thing. So you do have to have a whole separate canner. You can't use a water bath canner
Yeah.
to pressure can. You have to have a pressure canner. And it's basically just bringing the heat up to such an extreme temperature and under pressure that it's killing all the bacteria or whatever. And that's how it's sterilizing and preserving the food.
Yep.
So, yeah, which I think is like what scares me about it,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's like under pressure. I don't want it to explode.
Fair.
But I'm trying it actually today probably
Nice.
because the green beans they need to be something
They're
to be done with
haunting
them. They gotta
you
go. Yeah,
because
you
you know
can't.
you're gonna have to pick more.
Yeah, and like that's the thing with canning too is that it has to be done pretty fast
Right.
because you want to can the freshest possible that you can because it's being preserved for at least a year or more. And so you don't want to use something that's going bad, that's just breeding ground for bacteria to grow and whatever. So there is kind of like a time limit on it. And it makes me feel very overwhelmed.
I know. It's so nice that, like, with tomatoes and strawberries, you can just freeze it and deal with it
Yeah.
later. But certain things, like, yeah, like, I feel like the green beans would get super mushy if you did that, and that's obviously
Yeah.
not the goal. And
Yeah.
it's the same with, like, cucumbers. I feel like cucumbers are, like, the most pressure in the garden when you
Yes.
pick them. It's so stressful. You're getting
Yeah,
so
because you
many.
can't freeze them.
No, there's
It's either eat them or give them away or can them.
yeah.
And I'm so close to just giving them away or giving them to my chickens because I way, way, way overplanted cucumbers this year. I mean, I was nervous because I didn't get
Yeah.
any cucumbers last year. So I'm drowning in them. My neighbors are like sick of me asking if they want cucumbers. I even like my I have neighbors that are Brazilian and they don't speak any English, like not even hello. But I went over to their house and I pulled up the translator app and I just like translated like in Portuguese, would you like some cucumbers from my garden? And they took this
I
and
would
they were
have just
very
been like,
thankful.
here, like, you
Yeah.
don't need words. Just show them the
Well,
basket.
I mean, I've given them eggs before.
Yeah.
Like they popped their head over. Like we've spoken before via the translator app, so it was, whatever. But he popped his head over one day and he was like he said it in Portuguese and I was like, "I'm sorry, I don't speak Portuguese." And then you like pulled up the translator app and he was basically like, "You have chickens?" And I was like, "Yes." And he was like, "Can I buy eggs from you?" And I was like, "You don't even need to buy them. Like
Please
just
take
take
them.
them, please. Like take them. Thank you."
I know. It's really is like half the time what we're doing with the harvest is just trying to pawn it off on other people. Like, it's
Yeah.
very hard to estimate sometimes how much you're going to produce. And there's always one or two things that you're just like, please get this away from me. Like, I don't know what to do with
Yeah.
this.
And the thing that I messed up on is I didn't even plant a lot of pickling cucumbers.
Oh,
They're all slicers.
right.
They're all either snacking cucumbers or slicers. So, I can still pickle slicing cucumbers. It's just they're not going to be as crisp.
Yeah.
They're going to be a bit more mushy, which is fine with me. I can even quick pickle them
Yep.
and just put them in the fridge. But for canning, they're not the best because when you can something anyway, you're basically like boiling it and
Right.
it's going to become mushy anyway. So that's why it's better to use pickling cucumbers because they tend to stay a little bit more crisp, like a pickle should be. So I'm kind of, yeah,
I
we're
have an
kind of at
idea
a
for you. What if
yes,
you
please.
just do like a pickle barrel? Like a giant, have you seen these? Like, it's very old school. You just need a
Like
50-gallon like whiskey barrel, okay?
50 gallons.
Yes, you fill
God,
it. You haven't seen this? This is like an old-timey thing. It's
I
not
feel
food
like I
safe.
have, but I
Don't do it.
haven't. Okay, I was about to say
Oh,
nothing
this is
about this seems
100% a joke,
sanitary.
but it was a thing. That's how they used to do it. There was just like a barrel of pickles. That's the
I mean,
extent of my
they probably
knowledge.
fermented them.
Yeah,
So,
it's just a little
you
botulism.
know,
It's
yeah,
fine.
it was probably just a really large fermenting
Yeah.
barrel,
So you
I
need a
guess, which,
barrel. It's
yeah,
fine. Just go for it.
at this point, that's what I need. Yeah, I could fill because when I tell you my entire fridge right now is cucumber, beans,
So you store
eggs.
your cucumbers all in the fridge. That's
Yeah.
interesting to me because I've found the ones from the garden do better if I leave them on the counter.
Really?
Yeah.
I find the opposite. I feel like they get so wrinkly so fast.
Interesting. Maybe I'm just thinking of the pickling cucumbers.
You might be.
Yeah.
Because they do
Yeah.
tend to, they're just much more like hardy
Yeah.
cucumbers.
They have a
These
lower water
slicers,
content.
yeah, that's exactly what. But yeah, these slicing ones, they just get so wrinkly if I don't put them in a bag in the fridge. Like not even just in the fridge. They need to be in like a bag. Almost treat them like lettuce. Like
Yeah,
they
I
need to hold in their moisture.
went through like a 3-month period. This was like peak COVID. I was like, I'm going to learn the best way to store everything in my fridge. And like, because you're going grocery shopping less, you're trying to make things last as long as
Yeah.
possible. So I remember there was a time where I was like literally researching the best way to store cucumbers in the fridge because the ones from the grocery store, like they've already been refrigerated. They really have to be in the fridge. But I learned they don't like to be that cold, even those ones. So I found that keeping them wrapped in a cloth inside of a plastic bag on the door made them last like 2 weeks. It's
Oh, that's
ridiculous.
too much.
I know, I
That's
know, I know. But it was interesting to experiment with because a lot of people were like, wrap it in saran wrap. Don't put it toward the back of the fridge. Like there's all these different things. Every single vegetable has a different thing, which is why like I feel like this episode is kind of so hard to feel like we'll ever be finished
It's so
with
hard.
because there's every single individual thing we harvest, I kind of deal with slightly differently, and it's based
We
on
have
like,
to do should we do like a rapid fire
oh God, I
type of
don't know.
situation?
We can try.
So like, okay, like root crops, like
Okay.
beets, radishes, carrots, not potatoes because that's different, but like beets, radish, carrot, parsnip.
Yeah, I just
What do you tend to do with those?
throw them. Well, I never eat parsnips because they're disgusting, first of all. I just tend to throw them in the vegetable drawer. Like I won't even really do anything to them. I'll cut the tops off of radishes and carrots because they tend to dry out really fast. But otherwise I tend to just leave them in the vegetable drawer.
Yeah,
What about you?
kind of same. I just put them in a bag. I don't even wash them.
No.
I put them in a bag and I wait. I wash them after because I just feel like they keep a bit better
Agreed.
unwashed. Yeah. So that's that. Okay, potatoes and sweet potatoes.
Yeah,
Totally different.
that's outside and they have their own drawer separate from onions. That's an important one because anytime they're with onions, things will sprout. But
Yeah.
that's all I do.
So they're not refrigerated. They're stored in a dry, dark place so they don't sprout.
Yep.
I just put them in my pantry.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a container, like I have a container that has like holes in the bottom.
Mhm.
Like airflow is important too because they'll spoil or they'll
Oh, I eat my potatoes way too fast for that to happen, but
same, honestly. I mean, I leave a few to sprout for like the
yeah,
next year, but yeah, it's an in and out thing for me,
absolutely.
out of the garden into my belly. Sweet potatoes, though, are a totally different story because they have to cure in a very
Right.
specific way. And it's kind of a pain in the butt. I kind of really hate the whole curing process of sweet potatoes. It's like they have to be a certain humidity
Yeah, I'm
and
never gonna grow those.
it's, I I don't, there's some people that are very passionate about curing them correctly because the more correctly you cure them, the sweeter they
Yeah,
are. But in order to do that, it's like a science. I think it's
right.
very scientific. You have to have them at a certain humidity for a certain amount of time. And I don't really care that much. I don't care if mine are super sweet. I just like, you know, I like sweet potatoes. They don't, even if they're not sweet. I just
Yeah.
love potato,
Well, I
like
feel
any
like
kind of
any
potato.
like garden potato is going to taste better than one you got from the store, no matter how well you
Right.
cured it. So it's like there's no
Yeah.
point stressing over it unless that's like your kind of hyperfixation and you want to like do it perfectly. I don't know.
Yeah. So I just kind of cure them like I do garlic, which is another one that's
Oh, that
different.
is a
It needs to
pain
cure.
because it's so dirty
Yeah.
and like the humidity really does matter. I've ruined garlic by not having it at the right temp and humidity when I was curing it.
Onions are the same way. I have like a rack where it has holes in it and I'll hang them upside down.
I need to do that.
You can do that or you can lay them out just horizontal on a rack. They need like a lot of airflow is the main thing
Yeah, I have like
for
a
garlic and
metal
onions.
baker's rack that I'll dry them on, but this is actually the first year I'm doing onions and garlic. I usually only ever do garlic. I've never grown onions. So now I know I don't have enough room to do my
Yeah.
onions. And I'm not really sure what I'm going to do about that. So kind of have to figure that out because I think they need to be harvested next month. So that will be interesting. I might need to build something. It's going to be
That's
fine.
the thing too, is like there's a lot of room you have to like
Yeah.
preserve these things after you harvest them and especially if they have to be cured and have extra steps. Like you can't just harvest them. Well, you can harvest them and use them right away,
Yeah.
but they're just for preserving them long term. They have to cure.
Right. Like I grow
But
hundreds of heads of garlic. So
yeah.
as much as I eat a lot of garlic, I could never go through it that fast. It's the same with winter squash. It takes up so much room and it needs to
Mhm.
cure. I've started just leaving them outside like as long as I possibly
Yeah,
can because they
I do
take up
too.
so much room. It
Yep,
works fine.
leave like so for winter squash, leave them on the vine as long as you possibly can. Let them cure outside 100% and it'll make your life so much easier. And then take them in. Always make sure that you leave like what is it, 1 to 2 inches
Yep.
of the stem because if you cut too close, they can start rotting from the top. But then summer squash, I usually just leave those out on my counter for a
Yeah.
while. I don't even put those in the fridge. I think that they
And
do well.
the thing with summer squash that makes me so irritated is like it does not preserve well. Like I've never found a
Mm-mm.
method that I could like use it later and it happens to be the thing you get the most of if your plants don't get attacked by something. So it's like there's no middle ground. Like there's always going to be waste there unless you find someone else to give it to.
You can pickle it. That's like pretty much the only thing. Pickled zucchini's pretty
Yeah, but
good. It's not my
how much
favorite.
of that can you even eat realistically, even if you like it? I don't know.
Like over the course of a year or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to really love pickles, which I really love
Yeah.
pickles, but I can't even get through all of my pickled cucumbers in a
Right.
year, like the time that is recommended. Like canned things, they last longer than a year, but the recommended safe zone is up to a year, but obviously they can go like longer. But yeah, zucchini, it just doesn't really preserve that well.
Eggplant
Um,
too.
eggplant, unless you are canning, I think that there is an eggplant recipe for like an eggplant sauce, almost like baba ganoush, but not really. There is
Interesting.
a recipe out there that I want to try this year that I think it combines tomatoes though. It's like a tomato eggplant kind
Okay.
of
Yeah.
sauce,
So when you
but
pick your eggplants, are you putting those on the counter or in the fridge?
I put them in the fridge because they
Shrivel up.
wrinkle, they shrivel up really quickly. Yeah. Most things like that go in the fridge, like peppers as well. They go straight into the fridge
I was gonna
unless
ask
I
about that,
am
yeah.
preserving those, which I do pickle a lot of peppers. I love pickled peppers. Um, Salsa, if you're making salsa, that's another way to preserve them.
There will be
What's
a
another?
time very soon that I am picking so many peppers. It's like it's one of my favorite things to grow. Like they're so easy,
Same.
but then it's like very overwhelming when I bring everything into the kitchen. Um, yeah, that's actually probably the one thing that I freeze the most. So I didn't really get into that at all, but like I don't blanch my vegetables when I freeze them. Like I've just never, I can't. I'm not going to boil things and then freeze them. This is just way too much work for me and it's never been an issue. So I will just like try to slice my peppers every single day that I'm harvesting because I'll harvest like a basket full of peppers every day. And so
Yeah.
what I did last year was I had all my jalapenos, in their own bag, and I kind of separated by type to a degree because I wanted to make your hot sauce. And I ended up freezing all the jalapenos and making the hot sauce later. And then I actually froze the hot sauce in cans, in jars, and it worked really well. Like I've thawed 3 different jars now, and it tastes just the same as the day I made it.
That's really good to know,
Yeah.
actually, because I have been trying to figure out a way to preserve my hot sauce. It's not canning safe. I know that there's people that have said that they're going to try canning it. I wouldn't recommend it because it hasn't been tested. It's not safe. You do you, whatever. But it's nice to know that it freezes
Yeah.
because
I think
that
this
that would
year
be safe.
I'll probably do it in like ice cube trays just because like freezing the mason jars
Mm.
is like I don't love freezing things in glass and they don't stack really well in my deep freezer.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just have like ice cube trays of hot sauce and then like put all of that in one freezer bag because that's what I do with my pesto now too.
Oh yeah, pesto
Mm,
in
that's a
the
big
freezer
one.
cubes. I
Yeah,
do that too.
that
Yeah, that is a big
that
one.
is a game
Huge.
changer.
The best way to preserve basil is to just make pesto, put it in freezer cubes, pop one out when you need one. I also have done that with kale. So the only thing that I've blanched,
Mm.
that I've taken the time to blanch and then freeze is kale. And I make these little balls
Yeah,
that you can just put right into smoothies. It's so
I
nice.
forgot about that.
Just,
I did that like 3 years ago.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's the only thing I'll take the time to blanch.
yeah.
Everything else gets just tossed in the freezer. But I do sometimes I will lay, like if I'm slicing peppers or something or onions or whatever, I will lay it all out on a baking sheet and then pre-freeze
Mhm.
it and then put it in a bag. Because sometimes if you just put it all in a bag clumped, it can like clump together
Right.
in the bag. And then if you need, if you don't want to use the
You
whole
can't break it
bag,
up. Yeah.
you can't break it up. So it makes it a lot easier if you pre-freeze it and then put it in there and it stays nice and like not clumped up.
Yeah. What I started doing last year was I actually got a vacuum sealer. And so I was doing
Oh.
like pre-measured portions, like 2 cups of sliced peppers, because I just know like the way that I cook personally, I tend to use a lot of just like sliced peppers and sautés and stuff. So that way I don't really have to worry about the kind of separating out a chunk of it at a time because each kind of pre-portioned vacuum bag has exactly what I would typically use in a recipe. But yes, doing things on a sheet tray. Like I did do that last year with all the strawberries because they really stick together. I'm not doing that this year. I'm a little bit lazy. I have other things going on.
See, that's smart though. I have had a vacuum sealer for like a year and I haven't even gotten it out of the box.
Oh, I
Like I
love
need
it.
to use it. I know I need to use
The
it.
only thing is the waste. Like I try to reuse the bags if I can, but it's like then they just get smaller and smaller and eventually you can't reuse them. But it does
I
help
wonder if
me
they
with food
make
waste.
any I wonder if they make any kind of reusable
Yeah, I
ones
don't
now. I feel like
know.
there's reusable anything these
This
days.
is true. This is
We
very
I
true.
just need to I'm gonna Google it. I think we pretty much went over
Yeah,
all the
the
things that we
common ones.
do
Yeah.
to preserve after the harvest. Let us know in the comments if there's anything that you guys do differently. Also, let us know if you have any requests for episodes that you'd like us to cover. We're all ears. Just drop it in the comments. And you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And we will catch you guys in the next one.